This is Gemara Yevamos Daf Pei Yavav. All the learning has been generously sponsored as an incredible schos refuah shalema for Chadvalei Basardina Mir Tashem. The learning of the entire Chabura should bring Chadvalei Basardina a complete and quick refuah shalema, as well as learning Shrias Choshuno V'Zachem Devar Tamziv V'Zarach Shalom Levizavo V'Mitali Shima Ben Chayav L'Yudis Bas Asima Malka, as well as refuah shalema Shmuel Yisman Yiveda Shmuel Ben Teli Lo Naftal Min Chlas Locham Basiro Sablum Bas Mendachem V'Shishum Ben Malka V'Shavik Shechana. We're holding on the bottom of Beheyam Bees at the Mishnah. Two very quick announcements. First of all, we are in the middle of pre-recording the Daf Yomi for the summer months, which is basically the beginning of Ksubis. If anyone would like to sponsor, partner with a Daf, please be in touch before it is too late. And secondly, a little bit of an apology. Yesterday's Daf was a little bit quick. We were a little bit on super speed. We'll try to slow things down a bit. Says the Mishnah on the bottom of Beheyam Beis Bas Yisrael Meureses Likoyen. Case number one, you have a Bas Yisrael, a girl, a regular Yisrael, or her parents. Of course, she cannot eat truma, she cannot eat any form of kachim, and she has Erusin, not Kedushin, Erusin to a Koyin. Case number two, Meuberes Mekoyin. You have a Bas Yisrael that was married to a Koyin. The Koyin was Nifter, and now she is pregnant from that Koyin. Case number three, Shemeres Yavam Likoyin. She was married, and now her husband died, and she's awaiting Giba to a Koyin. Three cases. Another few cases. V'chein Bas Koyin Li Yisrael. Says the Mishnah, case number four, you have a Bas Koyin Li Yisrael, Bas Koyin who is married to a Yisrael. In all four of these cases, Lo Seichal B'Truma, they're not allowed to eat Truma. The first three cases being because there's not a full-fledged marriage yet to a Koyin, or the marriage already ended, their husband died, and there's not Yibum yet, or the marriage ended that the husband died and she did not give birth yet. Or case number four was the Bas Koyin who's married to Yisrael. Of course, no longer can she eat Truma. The Mishnah continues that Bas Yisrael Mureses Levi. I don't know if this is the first time, perhaps it's the first time in Yevamos they were getting involved in the din of a Levi, which of course when it comes to Levi, we're referring to Meiser. A quick reminder is that Truma is 1/50th of the crop goes to the Koyin, and then 1/10 of the crop goes to the Levi. So if a Bas Yisrael does Eris into the Levi, or Mu'uberes Me Levi, she's pregnant from a Levi. Shomeres Yavam Levi, V'chein Bas Levi Li Yisrael. In all four of these cases, Lo Yisaychal B'Meiser, for the same reasons, is not a full-fledged acquisition, a full-fledged connection to the Levi as of yet, and therefore she cannot eat Meiser. And finally, the Mishnah concludes, the Bas Levi Mureses Likoyin. Muberes Mekoyin, Shemeres Yavam Lekoyin, V'chein Bas Koyin Levi. In all four of these cases, Lo Yisaychal Lo B'Truma Lo B'Meiser, again, because it's not a full-fledged marriage. So the basic, we'll call it the one Yisod of the entire Mishnah, is that you're only able to eat the food that the husband feeds, that the Yavam feeds, that you giving birth would allow you to eat once there's a full marriage, once the baby is born, once Yibum is done, etc. Asks the Gemara on the second part of the Mishnah, the din of Meiser, that you give 10% to a Levi. Great, but who is allowed to eat Meiser? Anyone. Asks, meaning the Levi receives the Meiser. But if a Levi comes over to me and hands me Meiser, am I allowed to eat it? Of course. Asks the Gemara, V'tei Zara. Who cares in category B in the Mishnah, in the case of the Levi, who cares if they're a Zara, they're not related to a Levi? Zara miloyachal v'Meiser. Is a Zara now that eat Meiser? Of course they are. So what's the Mishnah talking about? Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel, explains Rav Nachman name of Shmuel Amani. Rabbi Meir Yida Amar Meiser Rishon Aser Lizarim. A Chedesh of Rav Meir, that the din of Meiser is it is forbidden to Azar, only the Kohanim Leviim are allowed to eat. The Tanya, as we learned in our Brisa, and we flip over to Peivavam and Aleph, Truma Lekoyin. Umaiser Rishon LeLevi Divi Rameir holds, not only do you give Meiser to Levi, the Levi is the only person who's able to eat the Meiser. Rav Ben Azariah Matira Lekoyin. Rav Ben Azariah allows the Meiser not only to be eaten by the Levi, but even the Koyin. Ask the Gemara, almost parenthetically, on that last detail of Rav Ben Azariah, Matiroi Mechal Dikaman Daser. Sounds like there's someone that holds a Koyin's not letting Meiser. What do you mean? Everyone holds that a kohen is allowed to eat meiser. Ella ema, you know what Rav Elazar ben Azariah means? Nosnoi af li kohen. You can give it the din of the nesina, as we pointed out that 1/50th is truma to the kohen, and 1/10 is meiser to the Levi. Rav Elazar ben Azariah holds you're even allowed to give the Levi's portion to a kohen, which Emir Hashem we're going to get back to soon. But ask the Gemara, my time of the Rameir, where does Rameir come in? Rameir said that meiser is something solely consumed by a Levi. Where does he get that from? Amar Avacha Brei Rabba Mishmei the Gemara, that he has a transition, he has a Messiah. He has a Messiah from Rameir himself. Ki as meiser b'nei Yisrael sheirim l'Hashem truma, says the Torah. Ma truma, it equates meiser with truma. Ma truma asur lezarim is not allowed to be eaten by a zar, and on kohen of meiser rishon asur lezarim. So says Rameir, it's exeris hakasef. Ask the Gemara, wait, if you're telling me that meiser is equated to truma, ima truma chayavin lo misa v'chaymesh, amais chayavin lo misa v'chaymesh. If you misuse and you abuse meiser truma, the halacha is there's a chayav misa, and you have to pay an additional fifth. So are you going to tell me that that didn't apply to meiser as well? Answers the Gemara, no. You know why? Because Amar Kra, it says in the Torah, Umesu boy ki mechalaleho. Says the pasuk that the umesu boy, a singular word, ki chalel, because you profaned it. V'yasav chamishiso elav, and you have to add on a fifth to it. And from here the Gemara learns boy v'loy b'meiser, Allah v'loy ala meiser. So the pasuk, the two exclusions in the pasuk of boy and Allah teach us it's a specific din about truma and not about meiser. So now that's the sheet of Rameir, and that's where Rameir holds this chiddush, which does not conform to the Mishnah, that only the Levi could eat meiser. Excuse me, that is the sheet of the Mishnah. What do the Rabbanan do? Because the Rabbanan hold that anyone could eat meiser. So what do they do with the equation in the pasuk equating truma and meiser? Explains the Gemara, it's for a different din. That ma truma becomes tevel, so too meiser. Chalitani has learned to the Brayser of Isi Omer, Tevel is the term used to when you have produce that was not separated, the appropriate chumas and meisers. So says Rav Yosi in the Brayse, you'd have thought that's only if nothing was separated. Let's say you take off the 50th for truma, and you don't take off the 10th for meiserishan. Let's say you take off the 10th for meiserishan, lo meiser sheni. You don't take off the next 10th for meiser sheni. And you don't give the meiser ani years 3 and 6. Minayin. So where do we know that the din of Tavel, that the entity is called Tavel, it's not allowed to be consumed till all Chumas and Meises are taken off? Tamleimer says Rav Yosi, Lo Yisaychal Lechol Bish'arecha. Says you should not eat in your gates. It's including even meiser ani, all meisers af sharecha merkan meiser ani. Ve'omer Rachmanan says the Torah lo yisuchal, and that's how the Rabbanan equate that truma is like meiser, not for the din that we just said that just like truma is only kosher to kohanim, meiser is only kosher to the Leviim. That's Rameir. The Rabbanan says no. There's a different equation to the two of them with regard to the din of Tevel. Asks the Gemara under Rabbanan V'meyasam, if it came from the pasuk you just said, we're about 20 lines into Peivav and Aleph. First, we're on line is Hava Amina. Says the Gemara, Imeyasam Hava Amina Lilav Avul Misalai. Kamashlan, that we need extra pasuk to teach us that there's even a Chiyav Misa. Lishta Achrina, another way of learning these drushes, Meiserishan, the Tavel Mid Rav Yosi, Nafka, learns that from Rav Yosi. Ask the Gemara, Misa, like Kamash Malon. So that is the Machlekes Rameir and the Chachamim with regard to who is the ability, who's allowed to eat a Meiser. So asks the Gemara, now we're about 20 lines to the bottom of the Amud, the first one line is Kamash Malon. B'mayu Kipta Kirameir. You're telling me that the Shita of the Mishnah that says that Meiser is consumed solely by a Levi is Rameir. Why are you telling me that the Mishnah is Rameir? Ema Seifel, look at the end of the Mishnah. What did category 3 in the Mishnah talk about? Bas Levi Mureses L'Koyin. Bas Koyin the Levi. Loi Soicha, Loi B'Tshuma, Loi B'Meiser. Says the Gemara, 1 second. You have a Bas Levi, that's Mureses is Eirsin to a Koyin. A Bas Koyin to a Levi. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? But you're not going to be allowed to eat Loi B'Tshuma, Loi B'Meiser. Answers, why not? Ask the Gemara, Hachamai Zarus Ika. What Zarus is there over here? Meaning, Rameir holds that when it comes to Meiser, it's a din specifically for Levi, Truma specifically for Kain. Says the Gemara, if the Bas Kain to Levi, even Rameir should agree you could eat. Amar Rav Sheshis explains Rav Sheshis the Sefer the Mishnah. What does it mean they cannot eat? The Katani Senes Rishos Litroim. A different thing. Doesn't mean they can't practically eat. Of course they could. You're right. Whether she's a Bas Kayin, whether she's Bas Levi, whether she's married to Kayin or a Levi, either way she's not a Zar. She's not a stranger. But it means Senes Rishos Litroim. She herself doesn't have the ability to do the truma, to do the separation, the hafrasha, the act of separating the tits. Ask the Gemara, why not? Because she's milreses. She's not fully married. So now really our Mishnah just took on a new identity. Until now the Mishnah was discussing what she's allowed to eat based off of her ability to be married, her completion of the marriage, the Nisuin and not the Erusin. Now we're seeing regarding another din, regarding her being able to have the ability to separate the Chumas HaMaisris, that's also by Nisuin and not Erusin. So it says the Gemara, what we just spoke out, Mechlal, based on what you're teaching me, it seems, the Nisua, and they said it's Rishus. It sounds like a Nisua that once a woman is married to a Kohen or a Levi, once she does Nisu, when she consummates the marriage 100%, it sounds like she now, yes, has the ability to take off Chumas HaMaisris. Says the Gemara, you better believe it, yes. V'hatanya, as we learned in our Bryce, is not a kasha, it's a raya. V'achalta ma'isai b'chol makom, it says in the Torah, you should eat it in any place. Atem, you, b'asechem, and your family. And from here we learn out, limin al nisua bas Yisrael, so it says, v'shos le'traim. That's we learn out that if a bas Yisrael is married to a kohen, she has the ability to separate Chumas HaMaisris. Ask the Gemara, what's the Rishos? You're learning out from the Pasek, and you're learning out that teaches that she has the ability, the permission to separate Chumas HaMaisris. Ask the Gemara why? Maybe it means she has the permission, le'echol, just to eat, but not necessarily to separate. Answers the Gemara, what would the Havamina be to be not? If she eats Truma, of course she can eat Meiser. Elos, what must the Pasuk be teaching me? Liman al Nisua bas Yisrael. Must be teaching me that she has the Rishos to separate the Truma. And therefore says the Gemara, that's how we're going to learn the Seifa in our Mishnah. And indeed, the Mishnah can be Shitas Rameir. Continues the Gemara, 12 lines from the bottom. The first one line is Shenoisenes Mar Breider Avana Amar, a different shot. You know what the din over here is by Erisin, a new way of explaining the Seifa. Mar Breider Avana comes along and explains that the din in the Reisha is teaching me that she has the ability to she does not have the ability yet, She'ein Cholkin La Meiser Bebeis Agranis. So now, says the Gemara, I understand there's different reasons why a woman should not be the one to be accepting the Chumas HaMaisers in the granary. If you're going to tell me because of Yichud, they're afraid that she's potentially going to be secluded there, I understand. According to the Man Amar that says the concern is about a Grusha, meaning that when she's divorced, we're concerned she's going to continue going back to the granary and taking Chumas HaMaisers, and thereby we forbid her to take right now, even when she's married. Ask the Gemara, wait, Bas Levi, Miloy Achla b'Maiser. What's the big deal? We're talking about Bas Levi to a Kohen. We're in the safe of the Mishnah. So who cares? Maybe she's going to get divorced and she's going to continue going to the granary. Great! Let her go. She's a Bas Levi. She came from a family of Levium, which allows her to eat the Maiser. Ask the Gemara back, throws the ball back. According to what you're teaching me, Kusha Bas Kohen, Miloy Achla b'Truma. I can ask you the same kasha, that she can even eat it, because the Bas Kohen goes back to her parents' house to Kohen and she continue eating Truma. Ella, so what must be the reason of the Mishnah? 6 lines from the bottom, Gezerah Misham Grusha Bas Yisrael. The whole Gezerah in the Mishnah to Gezerah all the way to Grusha Bas Yisrael, that's not allowed. Ask the Gemara, 1 second. If the whole thing is a Gezerah because Grusha Bas Yisrael, Yachi Maria Mireses, Afila Nesuanami. Based on what you're telling me is nothing to do with Erisin or Nesuin. If it's all a decree that maybe they're going to get divorced, and when they get divorced, she's going to continue eating illegally because she's a Bas Yisrael, says the Gemara, it's nothing to do with Erisin or Nesuin. They give me a din by Nesuin, we should have such a Gezerah. Answers the Gemara, I did on Yerusha Muras, and I save him Murases. So concedes the Gemara that you're right. Really, the din of Murases is true. It's really only the Reisha. And this din of the Seifa would be applicable even to Suin. But because the Reisha was Dafka Murases, so we said the same thing by the Seifa. And that concludes the portion of learning up how we learned the Mishnah. And we're concluding with two ways of learning the Seifa of the Mishnah, Baskayin Murases Levi, in order to explain that the Mishnah could fit with the Shita of Rameir. That either the Pshat is that if she's allowed to separate the Truma, and that only applies when she becomes an Isuin, or is referring to her ability to get the Trumas and Meisers in the Beis Agranais in the granary. Continues the Gemara, 3 lines on the bottom, Tanu Rabban. Truma l'kayin u'maiserishan l'levi divrei Rabbi Akiva. So now we go into a fundamental machlokes. Who gets Trumas and Meisers? Says Rabbi Akiva, Truma the first 50th to Kayin, Maiserisha in the next 10th to Levi, and that's obviously the most conventional understanding. Rav Elazar ben Azariah Omer l'kayin. Says Rav Elazar ben Azariah that the Meiser is even allowed to be given, or not, I shouldn't say even. The Meiser is given to the Kayin. So Rabbi Akiva said, Truma to the Kayin, Meiser to the Levi. Elazar ben Azariah says, Truma to the Kayin, Meiser to the Kayin. Ask the Gemara, l'kayin v'loy l'Levi. On Rav Elazar ben Azariah, Vitmiya says Rashi, are you telling me you only could give it to the Kayanim? And Rashi articulates the question. The pasuk says Leviim. So how can you tell me it goes only to the Kayhanim? Answers the Gemara, Ema Afli Kayin. Know what Rav Elazar ben Azariah means? That it goes even to the Kayin, not only to the Levi Meiser, but even to the Kayin. Of course, this was a din that we quoted on Amud Aleph. My time of Rabbi Akiva. So ask the Gemara, where does Rabbi Akiva get that the Meiser goes Dafka specifically to the Levi? Very simple. Vedach. What does Rav Elazar ben Azariah hold? Kid Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they crown Kahanim, Leviim. 24 places in the Torah refers to Kahanim as Leviim. This is one of them, and that is the reason why. This is one of them, as the pasuk says, "Va'kohanim Leviim b'nei tzadaik," and here we see that the word Leviim includes Kahanim. So says Elazar ben Azariah, based on the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, even a Kayin could take Meiser. Rabbi Akiva. So now, in the proverbial game of ping pong, the Gemara throws the ball back to Rabbi Akiva. Says the Gemara, according to Rabbi Akiva, why does the pasuk say Kohanim Leviim b'nei tzadaik? Why does the pasuk hone in that the Leviim include the Kohanim? If according to you, Rabbi Akiva, it's dafka the Leviim. Here, you can't say that. It's true there are 24 places in the Torah that Levi might mean Kohanim, but not here. You know why? You eat it, singular, in any place. And we darsha from here, says Rabbi Akiva, that you eat meiser b'chol makom misheyachol la'achlei b'chol makom. It's only someone that can eat something everywhere. Yatsa, you know who's excluded? The kohen. Why? Shein yachlech lo b'beis hakvaros. A kohen can't eat everywhere, so a kohen cannot eat b'beis hakvaros. Ask the Gemara back, ve'edach. Beautiful taina. So what does Rav Elazar ben Azariah say? He learned chol makom kol echad debai delo bai chayma. You know what kol makom means? It means that it could be even outside of the walls of Yerushalayim. And they're teaching us that if he eats while he's tummy, he's not going to get malchus. So says the Gemara of Elazar ben Azariah doesn't learn chol makom, meaning everywhere, and even a kohen indeed, yes, gets meiser, says Elazar ben Azariah. Continues the Gemara with the story about a kohen, Elazar ben Azariah, as we're going to see, who was getting meiser like the opinion of Rav Elazar ben Azariah. So this Machlokes, Elazar ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva played out in a story. Elazar ben Azariah held you get meiser, so he was taking meiser. Also, Rabbi Akiva comes, Rabbi Akiva holds that he doesn't get meiser. And he turns the entrance of this garden that Elazar ben Azariah was going into to get his meiser, he made it open into a Beis HaKvaros, a cemetery, so that Elazar ben Azariah cannot enter into the garden, because you'd have to go through a cemetery and a kohen is not allowed to become Tameh. And Amar, Elazar ben ben Azariah remarks, Akiva, Betar Miloi, Va'ano Chayai. Rav Akiva, you're coming with your Tarmiloi, with your pouch, referencing back when Rav Akiva was a shepherd. Va'ano, says Elazar ben Azariah, Bechayai, I have enough money, I'll be able to live even without this Meiser. Continues the Gemara. Now we're going to go a little bit back in the history of the story. Why, or I should say, when the Levium lost their sole rights to Meiser. Says the Gemara, Itmar, we learned about 15 lines down. The first one line is Mipnei. Mipnei ma konsu Levium Meiser. Why were the Levium Kanast find that they lost the rights to Meiser? Pliba, Rav Yoni, son of Isabya. Chad Omar, one says, Shla'alu b'mei Ezra, they did not go up right away to Eretz Yisrael after the Golus Bavel with Ezra. The other opinion says, you know why? So the Kahanim could have what to eat when they're Tameh, so the Kahanim got Meiser. Ask the Gemara, 1 second. According to Mount Amr, that the Levium did not jump at the opportunity to leave Golus Bavel with Ezra. I understand, that's a Kanas. They were fine that they didn't get Meiser. And it was given to the Kayanim. But according to the opinion that says, no, the reason is so that Kayanim can have what to eat when they're Tameh. Mishum Kayanim continue the Levium. I don't understand. We're Kanasing the Levium because the Kahanim knew what to eat. What did the Levium do wrong? Explains the Gemara, no, everyone agrees it was a Kanas Levium, they didn't go for the days of Ezra. So what is the Machlokes over here? Mar Savar Kanas La'aniyim, or Mar Savar Koyahanim b'meitimasa naniyaninu. The question was, we Kanas Levium because they didn't go up from Golus Bavel with Ezra. But who do we give the Meiser to? One opinion says we gave it to the Aniyim. The other opinion says no, we gave it to the Kehanim because when a Kohen is tummy, he's not allowed to eat his karbanos, etc. And he has a din of an ani. Says the Gemara further, Bishlam, about 10 lines on the wide lines, the Mandamar Kanas La'aniyim. If it was a Kanas for the Aniyim, I understand what Rabbi Kiva did in the story, that he turned the garden into the Beis HaKvarei so that the Aniyim will be able to take the stuff. According to Man Amar, that it was taken away from the Levium and given to the Kahanim. Why did Rabbi Kiva turn the entrance into the cemetery? And basically it's a historical question that we know that this Kanas was enacted back Bisman Ezra, meaning, when we learned the story a few moments ago between our Elazar and Azariah and Rabbi Kiva, we explained it ostensibly. We explained it b'shita, that each shita did what they held. But now the Gemara asked that we know that in the history of Klal Yisrael there was a Kanas, and the Levium lost the rights and was given to the Kahanim. So ask the Gemara, I don't understand. Even according to Kahanim, even according to Rabbi Kiva, the Levium were Kanas, and the Kahanim get the Meiser. So why did Rabbi Kiva go and turn the garden facing the cemetery? Explains the Gemara. This is what Rabbi Kiva was telling Elazar ben Azariah, a subtle detail. If you're coming to take the Meiser as a Kanas that you, the Koyanim, received in Al-Levium, then great. But if you think, like you, Elazar ben Azariah, really hold, you think that you have first dibs, that the Koyanim get Meiser right away, Leslach you should not have. And that is where it was almost a show. What Rabbi Akiva did to show to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you don't get it right away, you only get it as a Kanas. Ask the Gemara, where do we know this happened? Tell me there was a Kanas Levium, they didn't go up. How do you know that? The Psukim teaches 4 lines to the wide lines. Says the Navi that I'm going to gather them. This is a pasuk in Ezra, that I'm going to gather them all together at the river. Haba el ahuv in Achana Sham. They're going to camp there for how long? Yamim shleisha v'avina ba'am. And I'm going to look Havana at the people of Kahanim b'nei Levi lo matzati sham. And the Kahanim, the b'nei Levi, were not there. And we see that Ezra looked and says, "Wait, where are the Leviim?" That's why they didn't go up. They got the Kanas. Amar Rav Chisda, says the Gemara, another reason, that another time in history that Leviim were Kanast. Originally, the Shaitim, the officers of Klal Yisrael, came with the Leviim. Shenemar v'Shaitim Leviim lefneichem. Achshav amidim Shaitim ela me Yisrael. Shenemar v'Shaitim. Says the Gemara, another time that Levium were Kanast and lost a privilege. We'll pick it up from the Mishnah on the next year. B'siyato d'ishmayo.